evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I know you guys are like, who is that sitting next to Keya? It's all good. It's all good. This is my friend and my guest co host for the evening, Mrs. Toni. All right, y'all. We are here this evening to talk about a great topic that I think we haven't covered yet. I'm sure we haven't covered this topic before. You may have heard me mention some things about this before in relation to Marcus, but we haven't had a full blown conversation about it. So, the topic is navigating local but long distance relationships. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. So, make sure you share this live out with your friends, your family, your followers. Make sure they get in on this conversation. I'm going to also hit share over here on my side and make sure we get some people to come in the room. All right, but in the meantime, make sure you're hitting share. Get your people in here to have this conversation. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is how you can have demanding schedules, right? And I think having demanding schedules is just one of the things that kind of comes in part with relationships. Sometimes one person is working more than the other, or sometimes, they might be working on a huge project. And a lot of times they're in the same household, right? But I know personally, and I wanted my friend Toni to come on personally to have this conversation with me. Because she's my friend and I hadn't seen her in a while, right? I'm going to keep it 100. And at the same time, we can have a little fun on the live. And then third, we have something in common with this conversation. So why not? Right? Why not? Let's have the conversation. All right, so I'm going to let Toni introduce herself, and then we'll go a little bit more in depth on this topic and wait for some people to join. I see Skillet is over here on the Instagram side. B is over here on the Instagram side. What up, y'all? All right, Toni.
Well, my name is Toni, and really there's not much to introduce. I'm Keya's friend, and I am so glad and so humbled to be here with Keya just to have this conversation because it is a real deal, right? There are local relationships, but they seem like they are long distance. So I'm just ready and excited for you as the listener, the watcher, to kind of be able to hear from us and glean if you need to as we walk through this topic of being local but yet long distance.
Yes. So, I know that, like I said, you're going to have demanding schedules. That's going to be an issue. When Marcus and I met, I, was an entrepreneur and I worked a full-time job. I was a full-time mama TT. Like, it was a lot going on when we met, right? It was, we were still kind of in COVID, right? And so a lot was happening. However, Marcus' job had him traveling, a lot of times 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. And so the time that we spent together were on the weekends, right? And it was a new relationship. So initially it was great for us because it allowed us to really get to know each other more by talking on the phone and by, just having these other ways to connect and get to know each other and grow in our relationship. It was a great way for us to connect that way because he was traveling. So it's not like we didn't have other ways to connect, but it can be a challenge if you're not used to having that dynamic of a relationship, right? What you think about that?
I think that is very real. It is something that you definitely have to get used to. I think you even have to prepare your mind sometimes, especially when the relationship starts to build and grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, oh my gosh, now I really want this person here.
Exactly.
But they have to work, and so, I think you're on par. And yeah, for me, it's like you gotta mentally, and then once it builds to it's an emotional,
Mm-hmm.
type thing that you have to navigate through.
Yeah, and I think so for me, because of my already busy existing schedule, it didn't make it as bad at first,
Right.
right? So I'll say that. And I don't know how it was for you, but at first it wasn't so bad because I was like, I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So it works out, right? By the time Friday came, because what he would do is he would leave Monday morning and he wouldn't come back until Friday evening. So we would have
Mm-hmm.
Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday before he was off again somewhere. And so one of the things that I think was okay, I would be like, okay, Monday through Friday, I got to work anyway, right? I got other demands. I have to, run my nephew to school and back and whatever else we got going on. So it made the time go by fast. However, you still want your partner there with you, right? But I was able to keep myself busy a lot of those times. Um, until I started to like switch my schedule so that I wasn't doing all of those things so that I could try to be more available and present when he wasn't traveling like that, right? So it's hard to kind of like figure out how to do your schedule
Yes.
because of that. Because you're like, well, I want to be available when he's here, right? So that we can spend that time. And then how do you navigate through making sure, like the scheduling part, that can sometimes be a challenge because it's like he also needs time to himself,
Yep.
right? And then he needs time to hang out with the guys. And so you have to factor in, it's just so many different things that are going on that you have to think about. And then not to mention like if his travel schedule changes at the last minute, right? And then we've made plans to do something and it's just like, oh, well, he will send me an email update like, oh, I got to go here now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got to do this now. And it's like, so those are some things that can kind of come up. And that's just like for the work. But what about the people who have like kids who may be involved in all of these different activities and sports? And one parent may be available to take the kid to these things while the other parent's at home and working. And so they're not really spending the time, or the people who are in relationships that have elderly parents that they have to take care of, or family members that they have to take care of, that kind of separates them for long periods of time. And so those are all kind of like demands in terms of scheduling and timing that can affect your partnership.
Mm-hmm.
The time that you can spend, it's just all part of the scheduling that can affect how you can spend time and connect with your partner. So the dynamics are going to vary.
It's
What?
true.
You got something. You got
It's true
something.
because I find that the dynamics evolve.
I forgot to do this, y'all.
The dynamics evolve sometimes. And so when that happens, you kind of like have to, it's almost like you're the Matrix, you know what I mean? And you are moving according to how it's evolving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. As you said, it's a lot of variables. I mean, I couldn't imagine having children involved in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because just being the two of us,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to make sure all those things that you talked about are balanced.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that even in all of that, that your relationship is also maturing, right?
That's a point. That's a point. Let's talk about that.
Well,
Let's talk about that. Because that can be that can be a real challenge. How does your relationship mature and grow when you're not spending the time physically together?
Yep. it's and you have to be mindful too. You know what I mean? When it's not happening. I know for me, what I noticed is our relationship, and it may sound really, really crazy, but it's just honest and very transparent and real. Um, our relationship started maturing when we would argue. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, huh? But the arguments, like, they helped us talk through things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That we probably weren't really talking through effectively when he was away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I remember a family member of mine saying once, "Well, how are you all really, getting to know each other when he's away so much?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, no, actually, when he's home, like, it's cohesive,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my barometer to say it's really gonna be all right." You can keep on, what I'm saying, with this local but long distance. So, but yeah, really, it started really showing itself, the maturity in arguments, because we started understanding really what we expected, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we didn't like, what we did like.
Yep.
And they weren't brutal arguments, but they were like, okay, this is like, don't do that.
Right. Right.
Don't say that.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and so Marcus just put up, and thanks for putting that up, babe. Toni has a podcast, and we want to make sure that we support her as well. The Relevant Roundtable with Toni Howard. Make sure you go out on the podcast stations and subscribe and follow her. We thank you so much in advance for doing that. Also, I want to take a few moments to thank you all on YouTube and Instagram for tuning in with us live. We want to be sure that you're hitting the share button to share out with your friends, family, and followers. Because the conversation is about to get deeper. Y'all thought y'all heard it's about to get deep. Now y'all know I tell business. I ain't telling Toni to tell her business, but y'all know I tell business.
I'll tell
because hey, this is how we help each other. And Babe said healthy arguments can be good. Absolutely. And Junior Lily, who is our other co-host with Marcus every other Wednesday, says sounds like a bit of give and take. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And then Courtney over on Instagram says, I think arguing can be healthy. Depends how you argue. Absolutely. So I like what you just said, Toni, about, it really kind of helped you all to argue, right? And being able to identify that and then be healthy in that, knowing, like, because sometimes people don't know how to be healthy in their mindset about arguing. And sometimes we think of arguing as this really negative thing when there's good arguing and there's negative arguing, right? And I don't even really like to say argue. I like to just say healthy disagreement, right? We had healthy disagreement because arguing to me is really arguing. Like we're going back and forth, and I used to do that, y'all. I used to be the queen, baby. That's why everybody said we surprised you didn't go to law school. Because, baby, I would argue to the end of time. My ego was out front all the time. That's just the truth. I just wanted to be heard and I wanted to be right. But then I learned over the years, and this is something that I've said to Marcus since we've been together. I'm not trying to win an argument. I don't have a desire to win an argument. That is not anything that I'm striving for. However, what I am trying to do is get us to a place of understanding and respect. That's it. You might not agree with me after we do all of this talking, and I might not agree with you. However, we can come to a healthy resolution. And that may mean that we still don't disagree. However, it still may mean that we got to some healthy space in our conversation. And I'd much rather do that then sit up and argue and scream. No, I don't do that no more.
Right.
Them days over. I ain't got time. If we got to do that, you ain't my person. That's friend, relationship, everybody. But you seem to win the argument. No, I don't. You just be giving up. You be giving up quick. You be like, oh, you got this. You got it. He be like, no, don't worry about it, babe. You got it. You give up. I don't give up. I be like, so do you want to resolve this in a different type of way? He's like, I don't know. Just forget it. You got it. He gives in. But there are some communication strategies, like there's tips for maintaining strong communication, right? And a lot of the tips that I have are make the time count when you are together, right? Like, don't use that time trying to bring up something that happened 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that you were upset about. Like, I'm a real-time person. So if it bothers me at 2 o'clock, you're going to know about it by 5 o'clock, right? Because you get off at 5 o'clock around that time. You're going to know about it. We're going to talk about it. Because me waiting until the next day, like, first of all, it's unfair to you because you may not remember and you may not even understand what it was because we're not in that moment anymore. Like, so it's not even a big deal to you anymore because the moment has passed. So let's deal with stuff in real time and be honest about it. But let's make the moments matter that we do get to spend together. You got any tips?
Some of the things that I typically have done is when he is home is making sure that I'm not over talking. I have a tendency of wanting to explain everything, right? And so having an understanding that, he's worked for, the last 3 weeks, he's super tired. So the first day that we're together is not the day for me to dump, right? And so just allowing him to enjoy the space of being home and at peace because it can be very a toll, on him. Just imagine if you are not in your bed every night. You know what I mean? And so you have to make provisions for your sleeping, for three weeks out of a month. So one of the things that I intentionally do is I hold back on, not my communication, but again, for lack of better words, dumping.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that has happened since you haven't been here.
Yeah.
Not that we don't talk every day. But there's some things that you're either excited about or some decisions that you need to make that you need to circle back on. And so I would just say for the first day, let your person woosah.
Yeah. Have that decompression time before, and I think I struggle with that sometimes. Like Marcus can come in from work and I know his commute is hell, right? And I have to be mindful of that because I'm working from home a lot. And so I don't have to decompress the same way he does. And I just want to start talking when I see him, right? Out of excitement and just out of sheer, like, I just want to get this off my chest. I want to tell you about this. And I can tell, like, sometimes it's like, he's like, I just need a moment, right? And that's when I get my reminder, but I'm really trying to be mindful of that. So thank you for saying that, because that's a reminder for me to not be like,
Right.
come here, I gotta tell you all that. It can be a lot, I know that. I think that technology is a huge benefit.
Yes.
Right? We might not like all of the ways that technology moves, but I love technology for the sake of, and we don't really even do a lot of FaceTime when he's gone. We do, like, we'll talk on the phone, but we don't really do a lot of FaceTime stuff. But if we wanted to do that, at least we have that option because technology is so advanced. There's a number of things that we can do. One of the things that we used to do when he was traveling a lot is watch a movie or a show together. You know, like we're watching the show together while he's in a different city and we're on FaceTime or we're just on the phone, you know, and we're not saying anything, but we might hear each other chuckle or we might make a comment about something, but that is kind of like quality time, you know, with the use of technology. So we make the things work that have to work without being like, oh, this is too hard to do. Because it can be challenging, but I wouldn't want to be single. I wouldn't want to be in these streets. I'm just saying. Like, I don't want to just be with anybody, but I don't want to be in these streets because, yeah. I'll just have my babe when he gets back home. Because
it's a little different out here nowadays, right?
Child. I don't want no parts. And then there's I think we both have we have not an expectation. We both have a duty to ensure that we're setting aside quality time. Now, we have a running Friday night as our date night, right? Sometimes I'll be like, oh, he's going to probably do something else. Or, I'll just kind of assume that we might do something differently. And he may even do that as well. And then, here we are making plans and haven't talked to each other. And we're like, oh, yeah, we have date night on Friday nights. Like, that is typically our thing. And so I think, like, having that communication and always being on the same page is big. And sometimes we lack in that area. And sometimes we're very good about staying in communication about even me telling him, hey, I got this coming up, that's coming up. We tried the whole calendar on the wall. That didn't work. I need to just tell him, hey, this is what I got going on. Then he can, either remember it or put it on his own calendar, and I can do the same. Even when he sends me his itinerary for travel, like sometimes I'll forget, and then I'll be like, oh, you leaving? Like, because I didn't put it on my calendar, but that's on me. Because I said to him, that's what I communicated. I said, oh, just email me your travel itinerary. And then I won't put it on the calendar and get mad. Like, oh, you leaving tomorrow? It'd be Sunday. You leaving tomorrow? Oh. Then I get in my feelings.
Right.
So we just got to communicate, more effectively about that. What would you add to that?
I would add, just to be transparent, we had similar issues with communicating and travel schedules from the perspective of he'd be home and then all of a sudden the job calls and we've made plans and he's like, oh, I gotta go. And it was like, you gotta go? Whoa. Wait, oh, what is happening here? And so we had to learn, like,
yeah,
listen, in order for this to work and for my mind not to start thinking something else, come on, let's
be honest.
Let's be honest, because this is local, but, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had to be intentional about making sure that I was aware of what was taking place and what was coming down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I would just say to be intentional about, travel schedules or away time. Be intentional about the communication behind that. Yeah. Because again, like, we agreed earlier, when you are in this type of scenario, you do have to mentally prepare yourself when your partner is not around all the time. So
especially, and I'm surprised you didn't say this. It just popped in my head. because you spend more time by yourself than I do.
Yes.
Um, and that is being a woman in a house by
Mm-hmm.
yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and the feelings that can be associated with that sometimes. So
Yes.
I'm going to share a story, and I want you to share a story because I know you got one.
Mm-hmm. Got plenty, probably.
So things can break around the house, emergencies can happen, things can come up. April 4th, I was in a car accident. Marcus was not here. Um, Thank God my cousin was living here at the time and she was able to come and pick me up. But things like that, he wasn't here. And then after the car accident, I was shook up. I wanted him here. He wasn't here, right? That's one thing. Another thing is if something happens in this house, I don't know what to do. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I am not a handy woman. I ain't trying to be a handy woman. I don't want to learn. Like
Right.
people be, you need to learn this shit. I don't want to. Um, and so if he's not here, I wouldn't know what to do, right? And so I think about that. And just the thing of being here by myself, right? Sometimes it's scary, not like, oh, is somebody gonna come kick the door in and do something, but my mind be all over the place sometimes, right? That tell me when I need to stop watching the ID channel because I be creating all kind of shit. Be like, oh Lord, I hope don't nobody come in here. Ain't nobody coming in here, Keya.
Right.
But I done created all kinds of scenarios. All kinds of scenarios. So there's these gamut of thoughts that run through your head from being a woman in the house, because you don't know. And his travel schedule does vary. It could be 1 month he's not gone at all. The next month he could be gone for 3 weeks. He could be gone Monday through Friday, come back, Monday through Friday again, come back, Monday through Friday again, come back. Look here. Get out of my business, babe. Right. To an ID channel, Lifetime. If I didn't tell it, you don't need to tell everything. Can't help yourself. But yeah, so there's those types of things that you think about as a woman because it's almost like you're single for that time, right? So what about you with that scenario?
Yeah, so that's very, very real. And I've had a couple of situations where I'm like, oh my God, like I have to handle this myself because there's nobody here to handle it. I went intentionally and got AAA because I'm like, oh my God, I better be prepared because really I'm by myself here, So, shopping for a new car, we had to kind of like, do it through FaceTime. Like, well, let me show you this car. Are you available? And just kind of talking each other through like, well, is this a good idea? The price and, so it happens. Then the other thing is, when your partner is away like that, and you're in the home by yourself, you tend to take on a little more responsibility, right? And so for me, I have to sometimes take into consideration the job that he has, the sacrifice that he's making, right, in order to provide, in order to do what he needs to do as a man.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, because sometimes for me, when it's so much, when you have a busy schedule, you have a career, you're an entrepreneur, you're, all of these things, you're a sister, you're a daughter, all of these things, and then you have to take on the weight of responsibility in the house. For me, sometimes I felt like a little resentful. Like, oh my God, all you doing is just, but.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then I have to remember, no, wait a minute. Because the sacrifice is big within itself. Really, because he probably really don't want to be out there like that,
Yep.
traveling like that,
Yep.
right? So, okay, focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
your mind right,
Yep.
right? And just do what you need to do, because on his end, he's doing what he needs to do
Yep.
as a man, as a provider. And so, and not to mention, when you got in this relationship, you knew, Tony, right?
Yep.
And so this is something that you agreed to,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, that's what I would offer. Just, when you're there alone, although it may seem like it's a heavy load, just think about him
Yeah.
and his load, because men are different.
Yeah. They're very different.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way that you just had awareness with that, though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we lack the awareness when you said I have to even think about the fact that this is a sacrifice for him, and this can be a lot for him. And the fact that you're able to identify that this is a sacrifice for him too. Like, you're sacrificing, but that he's sacrificing also, because we can sometimes get caught up in our own emotions, and then we can lose sight of that. Marcus' question is, does staying busy help with the separation? He's talking about better not have a handyman. I didn't even see that.
Right. Right.
It's gonna be a handyman here if you ain't here, because you know I ain't doing it. So does staying busy help with the separation?
Well, I would say it has to be a good busy. You know what I mean? Because I can't just, like, I'm not a fluff person. You know what I mean? So I just can't see myself doing things just because I'm trying to fulfill,
to pass time.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily, I mean, it helps in a way if you're really busy, for real. But on the flip side, sometimes the separation is good because you need the quiet time and you need the time to regroup from your real busy schedule. So
I was gonna actually say that. So I literally enjoy the time apart. So Marcus leaves on Monday. By Wednesday evening, I'm start to miss him. Right? So, but I think absence does truly make the heart grow fonder, because for me personally, it makes the time that we do spend together so much more quality, right? And it's about, okay, so let's do things we really enjoy. Let's not sweat the small things. It makes me really make that time matter for us. When I do have that moment of missing him, I do get busy. You know, I get good busy, because I feel like I always got something to do. I always got something to work on, right? And sometimes, really in the last year, I've been like, okay, do I want to start writing another book? You know, because that would definitely really fill a lot of my time when he's gone. And I've really kind of gone back and forth and wavered, you know, on that idea. I haven't set on what I'm gonna do yet, so I just stay busy in other ways. But again, I think that it's good to have that time apart. I think sometimes, like, honestly, I thought about this about you earlier, and I said, I don't know how I could deal with 3 weeks gone at one time, like not coming home and then leave, because at least Marcus comes home, and then he can leave back out. He at least home for 2 days. You don't get that. Like, you're literally for 3 weeks by yourself, right? And so I'm like, dang, I don't know if, like it does take a special kind of person to do that, you know. And we've had another couple on, a friend of mine, Twyla, and the bearded guy were on here twice to talk to us about how amazing their long distance relationship is. I think the difference, even with that, is they see each other about twice a month. And so, and he's in Houston and she's in Dallas. And so I think like their challenge is not even as challenging as yours. And so I wonder if that was, you know, I asked myself that question, like, could I even like deal with Marcus being gone for 3 weeks at a time without like feeling alone and like needing more time, and like what would that look like for me? I don't know because I'm not in that situation. But I definitely commend you for knowing that, hey, this is the situation that you guys have, and still willing to work through that, you know, because that can be a lot. It can, and as a woman, like just speaking for myself, I can't speak for you or anybody else. I'd be needing that time, right? Like I don't even consider myself a needy woman in a relationship, but when I am having those needy moments, like I know at least if he ain't here today, he coming in 3 days, or you know what I'm saying? Like you got to be like, I need him right now, and I got to wait 2 more weeks. Like, woo.
Yes. And don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, this right here, like, we got to do something. You know what I'm saying? We got to do something. Yeah. But while it is what it is, we do things intentionally while he's away, you know? Like for us, we try to, as best as we can, we talk, you know, multiple times a day, but specifically before I turn in. Because even with him being away, our schedules are different. He works through the night most of the time, right? I work through the night.
I didn't even know this. This my friend, y'all. I didn't even know he worked through the night.
Yeah.
Lord.
So most of the time, some days he is, but most of the time he works. So our schedules are different.
So he gone and y'all on opposite schedules.
So it's like, woo, okay, we're gonna be we intentionally try to call each other before I turn in, because I get up at 5 a.m. I have to be on the road when I'm not working from home, right? So that means that I'm not trying to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning talking to you because you working.
Oh, wow.
I need to go sleep.
Wow, y'all heard that?
I want to go sleep. So we intentionally talk, and we talk for, it's generally an extended period of time. And then
before you turn in?
Before I turn in.
Okay.
Before I turn in. And then in the morning, because he's wrapping up his shifts.
So in the morning while you're getting ready, or as you're driving in?
Sometimes as I'm driving in, he'll shoot me a text. Or I could be in the office, well, even when I'm working from home. And in the morning, you know, 9-ish, sometime thereafter, then he'll shoot a text. But then I know during the afternoon,
He's asleep. Wow.
Yeah.
I commend you, my friend.
It's work.
It's work. and it's working. And it's worked for some years, right?
Yes.
So, like, that's the good part of it, right? Yes. So, and you guys just went on a nice vacation, right? And you got some time to spend.
Well, we ain't going to talk about the vacation, but...
Oh, okay. Because I ain't get to talk to you about it before we got on the line.
It was a nice vacation. Wonderful.
That's an offline conversation. That ain't none of y'all business.
We still together, y'all. We still together.
That's all that matters.
That's all that
They
matters.
still together.
Still together.
And they still together.
Right. Okay.
So the next topic I was going to talk about, you already kind of hit on. That's setting expectations clearly and honestly. Okay, so the next thing is related to personal growth and individual interests. Okay, so sometimes when you're in a relationship and there is no travel, there's no long distance in it, you're going to experience where your partner is growing or you are growing and you have different interests and they have different interests. You're going to experience that in the day-to-day relationship. But for people who are in local but long distance relationships, that can affect the relationship differently. And I say that because, for instance, if I'll use this as an example because this is something that I used to do and I used to have a true passion for, and that's bowling. So I used to, I never was a part of a league, but I would go out, and a good friend of mine was a part of a league, so I would go out sometimes and bowl with them, and that can be a lot of time, right? Sometimes we were going out and we were bowling, 2-3 times a week, and this was like 20 years ago, but it was a lot of bowling. 2 or 3 nights a week, you're out bowling, and if there's some type of tournament or something, it could be something that goes off into the weekend, and so that's a lot of time away from home, right? And so if you're in a local but long distance relationship, when you have certain interests that you've developed as a result of, hey, my person isn't here all the time, so I'm going to fill my time with doing things that I enjoy doing, right? Bowling. So I'm at the bowling alley 2 or 3 nights a week, and then my person switches jobs, and now they're home, right? And so how do you handle like a shift, or how would you handle a shift in, okay, I've established some pastime that I like, this hobby that I like, and it was filling my time, right? Because you weren't always here. So now what do I do? Like, do I release that hobby so that I can spend more time with you? Or do I ask that you join me on this hobby? Like, how do you go about doing that? Is that a conversation? How would you handle that?
So it's interesting that you would bring that up, because although we go through those spurts sometimes too, right? And so it goes back to sometimes it evolves and you got to kind of be like the Matrix, because there are times where the 3 weeks is not pertinent, where either something mechanical has happened that would put him, out for like 3 weeks. And so he's home versus working, right? And so for me, as you know, like when he's not here, I can go to brunch, I can go I can go networking, I can, you know what I mean? And so in those moments when it's like, oh, he's going to be here, now, I typically do shift. He loves lounges, he loves music. And so then I will, go with him, he loves, when it was like football season, he loves football. So I don't know nothing about football. But sometimes I sit my behind down and watch a football game. Okay? So I do shift.
Yeah.
I do. And I don't neglect some of the things that I do when he isn't, what I'm saying, isn't there. But for the most part, I include to make sure that we are spending, that quality time, and that he doesn't feel neglected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
or unimportant,
Mm-hmm.
or unseen,
Yeah.
because I'm so used to, because I'm a goer.
Mm-hmm.
You do, I be,
She be on the move.
yeah, I be on the move. But when those times come where it's it's unique, like I said, sometimes if it's mechanical, or maybe it's just slow,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they have to move the job from place to place, then
Yeah.
my schedule gets interrupted, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like if I were to do something, I don't know that I would do something that would have me away from the home, peopling
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to be doing something like that and he had a shift in his schedule, I would definitely make it work to where I'm not. Because I think um, I don't like, I love my partner. So there's no need for me to be like, I'm trying to get away from him. Like,
Right.
I want, mm-mm.
Right.
I love him. I love spending time with him. I love hanging out with him. So if I have to shift some things, then that's just what I'll do to make it work so we can hang out. Even if we can just sit up here and look at each other. Like, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to sit here and look at each other. Or we're going to sit on that back, smoke us a cigar, laugh and talk and cut up. But I think that sometimes people don't have that mindset to be like, oh, well, let me make some adjustments here so that my partner feels, like you said, seen and wanted, all of that. Like, who doesn't want to feel desired in their relationship? Like, if you just like, oh, you home? Okay, well, I'm finna go out. Peace. No.
Right.
Like, we can't be doing that. Like, and if you are doing that, that's fine, but you may need to evaluate where you may be in the relationship, because I'm gonna make the time work for us. So we're spending some good quality time with each other. So the last area for conversation is about coping mechanisms and support systems.
Mm.
So some healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with some of the challenges. Friends, family, phone conversations. One thing I want to do is talk about an app that I'm an ambassador for, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this app, but it's called Marco Polo. Marco Polo is an app where you can do video chats, okay? And the way that it works is we send texts all day, every day, right? My best friend that's in St. Louis, you messy, babe. You messy. I'm ignoring you and I'm moving on. He's so messy. I swear.
I concur.
But Marco Polo, you can actually talk and they can see you and hear you as you share a message. You can also do text chat on there, and you can also send pictures through there. So what I love about it is I get to see my bestie's face every day. We chat, and then we don't have an issue with being like, oh girl, my hair look crazy. Oh, I'm just getting out the bed. Or, we can be very transparent. We can be who we are on Marco Polo. Or I can get dressed up and be like, girl, what you think about this? Look at this. In real time, right? And it's not FaceTime, because one of the challenges for people like me who don't really like talking on the phone for long periods of time, and she doesn't like talking on the phone for long periods of time, we can literally get on Marco Polo, say we need to say get off. She can check it at that moment, or she can check it 20 minutes later. And then she can respond to me an hour later or 2 hours later, whenever she has the time to respond to me. But we can at least see each other and hear each other. That is a true connection for me. Like, I like to see the people that I'm talking to. That's how I am. And that's how she is. So it works for us. But if you're a person that's like that, try the Marco Polo app. And if you're interested, let me know and I'll send you a free link to connect on Marco Polo. And you will be able to have the plus plan, which gives you so many more options and so many more things that you can use on that app. And you'll get it for free from me. So just let me know if you're interested. That's just a plug because I'm an ambassador for Marco Polo. I love that app. I've been using it very closely to the amount of time that I've been in Dallas for almost 8 years. So I absolutely love it. It's a great way to be connected and not kind of like be bogged down to the phone while I work on other things and do other things. So connections, friends, family, your support system. What about you?
Yeah, so I want to touch on the comment because the coping mechanism, yeah, one is friends and family, but I love the comment, not messy friends and family. And that's real. It's so important because you have to know what friends and what family you can share with that won't be judgmental and won't be a carrier of the bone.
Yep.
And when you all are back together, they will be supportive of that, right? And not necessarily, on the opposite end of the spectrum. One conversation that we had recently, to be transparent, was covering, right? And so I think this kind of falls right in there. It's like one of the mechanisms that I typically use is to cover my partner, right? With the right people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to share certain things about him or certain disagreements that we've had with certain people that would put him in a negative light, right?
Yep.
So I'm not, it's like I'm going to be very, very, very cautious to make sure that whatever I share in me trying to cope, right, is still going to create a safe space for him and the relationship, right? Because if you don't, that gives a loophole for that person to try to come in and destroy the relationship.
Create some,
Okay. So I like that. Whoever that is, I like to preach.
That's Marcus. Marcus is Marcus, and Data from the Real is Marcus. No, so he's a huge proponent of not even telling people what's going on. So that's why he's saying preach. Because it can get messy. I've been there before. I'm not going back. It can get very, very messy.
Very.
Right? And so I think for me, like, I use my friends and my family for just, I'm not going to say use them. I don't even like that. My friends and my family are the people who I can rely on and lean on in times where I just need a listening ear.
Right.
Or I need, it's almost like I need the company too. You know what I'm saying? At the same time.
Yeah.
So even though they might not presently be present here with me, again, that's why I love Marco Polo. I can have these conversations with them in real time. And so I think that's important to do because sharing things that are going on in a relationship can be damaging. It can be hurtful. And so when I said Marcus was being messy about saying messy, he was being messy about me because everybody jokes about how I release people. I already know where he was going with that. And so he not the non-messy friend. I don't have messy friends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I've dropped all of them. They're all gone. They're all gone. Bye-bye. I don't do it no more. So, yes, I think having a support system that you can rely on and lean on, because it can be a challenging to have a partner that's not always there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, it can be challenging when you see other couples that are together all the time
Yes.
and you don't always have access to your partner, right? It's like, oh, people will invite you to stuff in the middle of the week. Like for me, in the middle of the week, and it's like, okay, if it's something where it's a couples type of thing, I'm like, well, Marcus isn't here. Well, you can still come. I'm like, but yeah, I don't want to. I don't really want to come to the event that's a couples event and Marcus ain't here, right? And so I just be like, that's okay, or we're available on these dates, right? So we can all get together for a couples event. And it's not like I'm completely opposed to getting together with other couples and he's not here, but there's a different feeling
Mm-hmm.
that you have. And then you see the other couples loving on one another and you don't have your partner, and that can be a challenge too. So there's that. And then the last thing I had on my list about support was therapy.
Yes.
Like having a therapist that you're talking to, because one of the things that I used to struggle with in relationships is attachment issues,
Mm.
right? And so I had to learn how to become um, just an individual, right? I had to learn how to be just Keya, right? And understand that I'm not attached to anything or anyone. And that even if my partner was here every single day, 365 days a year, I'm still not attached because I don't have control over life the way that I thought I did. And so I had to learn that even through like talking to my therapist, like, we don't have control over people anyway, right? People have to move as they need to move anyway. And it's healthy to have those moments of time apart from your partner. And it may look differently for other people, but it's how we make it work for us,
Yep.
right? And like that is how I feel about the situation with being in my local but long distance relationship. We make it work for us because we care about each other, we love each other, our relationship is important to us, so we make it matter. And there are times that I've had to say to him, I don't feel like we're getting the quality time in that we need to get in, right? And he may ask questions like, okay, well, what is it that we need to do, or blah blah blah. The past would be like, you should already know that, right? That was the unhealed version of me. Now I understand I need to articulate exactly what I need and how I need it for him to fully understand what I need. He can't give me what I don't tell him. So
I concur with you with the therapy. It helps, especially with some areas where those friends or family members that you are comfortable with, that are mature enough to handle your relationship, and it's very few and far and in between for me. Yeah. So it ain't
ain't a lot of them.
It ain't a lot of them. It ain't a lot of them. But it helps me, really talk through some things about Toni, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how can Toni be a better Toni as a result of what I have experienced in the relationship? Or how do I not, I, used to tell him, well, not used to, but multiple times I said, I go to therapy to make sure that I'm not carrying the baggage, right?
Mm.
Because you don't deserve the baggage.
Mm-hmm.
It's my responsibility.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
To heal Toni, to become a better Toni.
Yep.
It's not his responsibility. Even when we go through things, it's not his responsibility.
Yep.
So I definitely concur with the therapy. The other thing that I would say too is, which I tell him all the time, And it's funny because yesterday I thought to myself, I wonder if he ever says, if she says that one more time. But I always say everybody's situation is different. So I'm not looking at couple, like everybody's situation is different, right? And so because it works for them doesn't mean that that's going to work for us. And so I love that you said that it works for you. You know, it works for your relationship. It works for your household. Right? And so it's like, no, you know, every situation's different.
Every situation
is different. It may look the same. It may seem the same. But when you start peeling the layers of the onion back, it's not the same. And so you have to do what you need to do, like you said, for your relationship. What works for the two of you. You know, and everybody is not going to understand. And it's not for them to understand.
Yeah, I think like that is so true. It's funny. I remember, so my loctician, I love her. Let me tell you what she said to me though. This was when this was around the time she first started locking my hair. So she didn't really know me. And she said, I think Marcus may have called me or texted me or something. And I told her I need to take this, right? Because he's not here and I need to answer this call.
Right.
So it was something like that, or I need to respond to his text. And so I was telling her, I was like, yeah, he works out of town a lot. You know, sometimes he's gone a week. Sometimes he's gone up to 3 weeks out of the month, but he comes home on the weekends. And so she was like, girl, y'all don't be FaceTiming every day, all day? I said, absolutely not. She said, I wouldn't trust my man to be gone like that. Don't FaceTime him. I said, and if I didn't trust somebody that I call mine, he wouldn't be mine.
Yeah.
So
it's difficult.
It can be a challenge when you're placed in those positions, especially if you are a woman that's been cheated on, lied to, disrespected, and I've had all of those things happen. However, in this relationship, I was really intentional when I got in the relationship. And so I was like, if I have to question anything this man does, I'm gone. Because I cannot be in that type of relationship ever again. So if I can't trust him, I don't need to be there. So that's why I said earlier, we very rarely are on FaceTime when he's traveling. I just trust and know that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he has that same level of trust in me. But that's where our relationship is different, because I do have some friends that are like, oh, no, I need to see this man's face. Oh, no. He kind of be on some other stuff. I need to see his face. But, I mean, I get that. I get it.
Right.
And it's definitely not no judgment from me, because I've been there. I already know. But I feel like, again, that was just to talk about what you said. And that is, everybody's situation is different. Nobody's situation looks the same. And you actually harm yourself by comparing yourself, right? That's harmful to you, because my situation is not going to look like someone else's situation, because I'm Keya. That's Toni, right? I don't know if our friend Denise is still on IG. I know she popped in, and that's Denise.
Yes.
And all of us have had very similar types of situations, right?
Yeah.
Denise was involved in a long distance relationship for 3 years, and she just moved to Houston with her boo. But she was in a long distance relationship for 3 years. And what did she tell you today? It was challenging, right?
Yes.
It was challenging, but they stuck it out, they stayed with it, and now she's in Houston with him, right? And they're making it work. And so the dynamics can all look very differently. I think the goal, though, is still the same. We all want to be happy.
Yeah.
We all want to be in positive, healthy relationships, loving relationships. We're all trying to elevate in our lives, right? And we're all trying to connect with other like-minded people in order to do that. So I think it's okay if it looks differently as long as the end goal is positive, right? And it's a healthy dynamic. Otherwise, what are we doing? Otherwise, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm going to have my closing words, and then I'm going to have Toni share her closing words. And because Shamika isn't here, we won't do like we close out when she's here, because that's her thing. I'm going to let her close it out the way she closed it out, because she's going to look back and be like, I know y'all didn't close it out the way I closed it out. We ain't doing that, cousin. Me and Toni going to do our own closing out, because I'm going to invite Toni back to be a guest co-host with me again, because Shamika's going to have some stuff coming up where she's not going to be able to be on here with me. So you going to miss out on the Bible verses today with Shamika. That she going to mess up anyway, that you going to have to look up and send to her. So we already know we ain't doing that. I have to tell you about that after the live. Girl, that'd be so funny. Shamika, she be trying to share them Bible verses, baby. She be like, it say something like, it'd be so funny. But my closing words is love deeply. Love honestly. Have healthy communication with your partner, no matter what. Because that is going to get you to where you're trying to get in your relationship dynamics. Mm-hmm. Keep people around you that are lifting you up, that want to see you win, that are clapping for you, with you, and when you're not away, and when you're not there. Have those types of people around you. You deserve love. You're worthy of love. I wish you nothing but love. Toni?
Now, how do you come behind that? Like what? Closing that.
I'm a writer. I'm a writer. It's what I do.
So I'm gonna just make it short and sweet. In closing, I would say love unconditionally. Not in an abusive manner, because nobody is a walking mat, right? But love unconditionally, and be the safe space that you desire to have in your partner.
Yes.
Like Keya, I'd say, have supportive people around you, people that are not only lifting you up, but also lifting up your relationship. People who are cheerleading for you and your partner. Mm-hmm. If they don't really like you, then they don't really like your partner, right? I mean, from a friend perspective, right? So there's no need in telling that person anything about your partner. Mm-hmm. Ain't nothing gonna come out of that. And I would say always ensure that you give room for mistakes and growth.
Yeah. That's good.
Because as long as you see the effort and you see the growth, then you know that whatever the challenge is, it's well worth it. Mm-hmm. Because your end game is glorious. So I would just say leave some space for that. And know who you are individually without your partner. Love you individually so that you can give the right love to your partner.
Yes.
Yep.
That was a good follow-up. What you talking about?
I don't know.
What you talking about?
I don't know.
Look, we have enjoyed this time with you all. Toni, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This was so fun.
And no, thank you.
And I'm going to have you back again. You will be a guest host with me again. And if you haven't already, make sure you go out to the Relevant Roundtable with Toni Howard. Follow her podcast. Support. Y'all know one thing we about on Date Affirm the Real is showing love and showing support. It costs nothing. It's not going to hurt you. It won't take a dime out of your pocket. We love to support, okay? We love, love, love to support. So if there's anything that we can do to support you or shout you out, you want to be a guest, of course, as always, reach out to us. And if you're interested in those Marco Polo Plus passes, be sure to hit me up. You can text me. You can put a comment in here so I can come back to you later and shoot you that link to get signed up. It costs nothing. You don't have to enter your credit card. It's not a gimmick. It'll be free for you. So, and I am open and willing to give you that free pass. That's it. And that's all. Until next time, next Wednesday, you will have Marcus and Junior Lily on with you all next Wednesday. Until next time, peace.
In eyes of mine, you see, there are no trees inside of me.